a new bi-weekly show on the Fish Stripes podcast, starring Isaac Azout and Kevin Barral. Fish Stripes Unfiltered starts right now.
Fish Stripes Unfiltered back here with episode 6 with my co-host Isaac Azout, and we have a very special guest, Daniel Álvarez of El Extrabase. My man, how are you? It is an honor to have you on here today.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys for having me. I love talking to you both, Isaac and Kevin. And I have to say I really missed doing this because it's been a quiet off season, I think, for the Marlins so far, but basically for every single team. But I really miss doing this.
Yeah. So Isaac, my man, how are you, man? I mean, there's a lot to talk about today. I would say there's a lot to talk about, from the last time we spoke to right now.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here again. And like Daniel said, it's been relatively quiet on the Marlins front. But, luckily in the last couple of days, couple of weeks, there's been a little more reporting done on other teams and as well as the Marlins. So we'll definitely dive into that today.
Yeah, so as usual, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and I guess subscribe to us on anywhere where you're listening to this, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever really you listen to this. And I think we could start with the breaking news. We're filming this on Tuesday, so Noah Syndergaard signed a massive 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, $21 million for 1 year. Your thoughts on that, Danny? Because that's a pretty big deal.
I think you said that right. It's a massive. It's hard to say there's a massive 1-year deal, but when you sign for $21 million, I mean that's massive. So, yes, that's the right way to call it. Good for the Angels who are betting on a pitcher who we just pitched 2 innings. That was it. 2 innings in the big leagues in 2021. Last couple of weeks of the season, including one inning against the Marlins. I think it's a low risk and high reward for the Angels, who desperately need pitching. They need pitching. They need more than Shohei pitching every 10 to 7 days. So I think it's good for them. I think the way the market is being handled right now with the signing of Andrew Heaney, with the signing of Eduardo Rodriguez for the Tigers, and now Noah Syndergaard tells you a lot about how much teams are looking for pitching, which also leads me to believe that the Marlins maybe need to look up one of their guys, maybe Sandy, or especially Sandy, and then look what they can do with guys like Pablo or Sandy or Eliezer.
Yeah, there's another pitcher who signed his extension, and we'll get into him later because this, I guess, in a way, has something to do with the Marlins with Sandy and his extension. But Isaac, I mean, yes. $21 million. I mean, we don't even see these in 1-year deals. This is, in a way, Mike Trout money. So, what were your thoughts on that deal? And in a way, it does affect the Marlins. So, if you want to go into that, and we'll tie it in with the Jose Barrios stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, when you're a team like the Angels and you just have an insane amount of capital available, it's like Danny said, it is somewhat of a low risk signing for them. And you look at these 1-year deals in the past, they seem to work out well for both the player and the team. We mentioned Ozuna, we mentioned Donaldson. Braves like to do things like that. But with Syndergaard, like you said, he's pitched 2 innings all of 2021. So, but if it does work out, it will be a bargain because when healthy, Noah Syndergaard is one of the most overpowering pitchers in all of baseball. So, if you have him for just 1 year on the books, and yeah, albeit at $21 million, I think the Angels will be happy with it. It is risky when you just look at, all the money that team has when you don't, I don't know if they've learned their lesson with Pujols, with CJ Wilson, with Hamilton, with Rendon. They have a lot of money on there. So, but I think keeping it at 1 year was probably like what made it worth it for them.
Yeah, and Danny said it was low risk. I think it's in a way high risk because this guy hasn't pitched a lot at all. 2 innings, as you mentioned. So it's a little bit of a high risk, especially at $21 million. If this was maybe 10 to 15 million, you could say it's a lower risk, but this guy is an injury-prone pitcher. But when he's healthy, man, he is really good. And then with the other news, Jose Barrios signed a 7-year deal worth $131 million. And I'll start with you, Isaac. Is this an overpay for Jose Barrios? I mean, it seems like it.
At first glance, I didn't really pay attention much to him when he was with Minnesota. He got traded last year during the trade deadline. He's been a healthy pitcher who pitches his 190, 200 innings almost every year. He's just been solid. So I guess like we said, pitching is a hot commodity right now. You look at what all these pitchers are making. And what I think what could tie in with the Marlins is, the Marlins aren't going to be looking for pitching to acquire, but just like teams are willing to pay so much money for a guy like Syndergaard, for a guy like Barrios, for a guy like Eduardo Rodriguez, teams are going to be willing to give away player capital for pitchers like Pablo or a pitcher like Eliezer. So maybe it's a good sign that all these pitchers are receiving so much money.
And with this, I mean, we look at Sandy, who's a guy who's due up for an extension. I think he's going through arbitration now this year for his first time. Danny, I mean, what does this seem for the value of Sandy now? I mean, we thought it was going to be maybe 5 years, 50 million. I think that's what Craig had mentioned at some point. This value, we assume now goes up, right?
It definitely goes up, and especially when you see how teams have a lack of pitchers who can go more than 6 or more than 7 innings in tough situations. You saw it in the postseason. I mean, whenever a pitcher was having a bad inning, no matter if it was the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th inning, they were taking them out. We saw it in the World Series a lot. We saw it in the postseason in general a lot. So then you see guys like Wheeler or Wainwright or even Sandy, one of the few pitchers who actually passed the 200 inning mark for pitchers or innings pitch, something that it was an accomplishment for every single starter. But you had 30 to 40 to maybe 50 starters in the big leagues pitching 200 or plus innings in years past, and now you only had 4 this season. It certainly tells you a lot about how good of a pitcher Sandy is, how reliable he is, and I think that maybe adds to his value, and it's gonna make a lot more expensive pitcher because he can give you not only innings but quality innings, and that's the thing with Sandy. I see the same thing with Barrios, who's always close to 200 innings, so good. With his fastball, with his breaking ball. I mean, his slider, for example, it's something that reminds me a lot of Jose Fernandez, for example. And I told him this a couple seasons ago when the Twins came to Miami, and he told me, some people think the same when they see me, that it reminds them a lot about Jose, and I see the same thing with him. So yes, I think maybe it can sound like an overpay for Barrios, but I think it's gonna really be huge for them going forward because he's still very young. No injury history that you can be concerned about, and he's only going to be effective in that division.
Yeah, when I first saw the number, 7 years, 131 million, I immediately thought of Chris Bryant because that's been the number I think some have been discussing. I mean, you could even go a little bit high for a guy like Chris Bryant, but the years is around that, and I think he does have an option to get out of that contract in years 5 and 6.
Yeah.
But just for a little bit more statistical point on Barrios, he was 12-9, 3.52 ERA, 32 games, started all of them, 192 innings pitched, so very close to that 200 inning mark, and 204 strikeouts with a 1.06 whip. So he had a very good season and almost pitched as many innings as Sandy. So we look at it, and I think now when we go back to Sandy, I think Miami it's going to be harder for Miami in terms of now trying to lock in Sandy, because before this, you could say 5 years, 50 million. That's robbing Sandy Alcantara, and maybe they would go. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's something that, I mean, from Sandy's perspective, I can see this and say, okay, maybe I can sign a long-term deal with the Marlins if the Marlins are willing to pay me, knowing what they did with Barrios and for how much they signed Syndergaard and Heaney or Rodriguez. I mean, you can see that happening. But also, what makes you think that he's going to be so desperate to sign right now, knowing that he can go to the open market and get a contract like the one that Barrios had, even though he was still in control of the Blue Jays, but 1 year away from hitting free agency? Or a guy like Rodriguez or Heaney or one of these guys that are going to sign. I mean, I'm waiting for to see what's going to happen with Robbie Ray, for example. He's probably going to win the Cy Young, and he's in another level right now. But still, he wasn't that good of a pitcher until this year, even though he was really good. So it makes me think maybe, I don't know, if Sandy has the need of signing an extension now. Yeah, Sandy, don't look at me like that. Um, but, but maybe I maybe he wants to stay here, but I don't know if he's desperate to sign like right now, knowing that he's gonna be a free agent like a very young age, and with a lot to prove ahead.
Yep. And I think we will move on to a season we don't want to talk about, so we'll just let you go into that briefly. 2021, Danny. And then we'll go into the more exciting part of this episode, which is all this free agent news. But your thoughts on that 2021 Marlins year? I mean, a lot of negative, very little positive, I would assume.
Yeah, very little. I think I'm a very positive guy sometimes, and I try to see things where maybe lots of people don't see it. I know you guys see it in what the pitching staff did, with guys like Sandy or Trevor, or how good Pablo pitched when he was healthy. How good Eliezer was down the stretch sometimes. Guys like De La Cruz, guys like Sanchez, like Lewin, Jazz, and the year he had. We all hope that Brian Anderson can be healthy for once, although in 2018 it wasn't his fault because he got hit by a pitch and then he got a fracture, or 19, I can't remember. I think it was 19.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah, 2019. So I see some positive things, but at the same time, I go to the results and to the record, and you say, you know what? I mean, it's tough to find something positive here. However, obviously, it was a disappointing season. Obviously, it's tough when you only have 3 starters in your rotation for basically a 162 game season, and you have so many injuries down the way. But they need to get better. They definitely need to get better. They need more offense. They need to support that awesome pitching staff they have, especially with the starters. I think that guys like Anthony Bender or Zach Pop, they did a really great job, even though it was their first year in the big leagues. And I saw plenty of good things, but they definitely need to get better because we can't be in this cycle of rebuilding or building or however they want to call it, and waiting and waiting and waiting because it's been a long time since the last time they actually won something. So they really need to hurry up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really have much to follow up on as we've touched this topic, I think, almost every unfiltered episode. Isaac, I don't know if you have to touch up on anything here.
No, just complete and utter lack of offense, and I think that just what really people in the front office and people, Marlin fans should really be worried about is, they're just so excited to, hopefully sign Marte or hopefully sign one of these guys. And just like a harsh reminder is that the Marlins had Marte for the second half of the 2020 season. They were a 500 ball club essentially, and they had him for the first half of this season, and they sucked. So if all they want to do is sign Marte and they think that him and adding some second tier catchers is going to make them a playoff team, they're very incorrect. So the Marlins are going to have to do a ton of things, and they're going to have to hit on all these things in order for them to be even remotely successful in 2022. So it really is up to the front office, and they're going to have a lot of decisions to make, big decisions, and they're going to have to hit on every single one of them. But they haven't hit on draft picks, they haven't hit on trades. So it's a little worrisome if you're a Marlin fan for sure.
Yeah, and going into 2022, the offseason, I've said this many times, it seems like the most hyped offseason that the Marlins have had since the start of the rebuild. You hear names like Nick Castellanos, Starling Marte, Avisaíl García, not the biggest name, but it's a name that I guess for Marlins fans really does stand out. We'll go into the first one here, Danny. What are your thoughts on possibly Nick Castellanos being on the Marlins? I mean, John Heyman made a tweet saying the Marlins met with Marlins met with Miami area native Nick Castellanos, agent Scott Boras, good fit for the team that needs bats, but hard to see them affording him. More likely they acquire multiple hitters that cost somewhat less. I mean, what are your thoughts on this report, and what would Nick Castellanos do for the Marlins?
I think he would be a very I think he will be a very impactful player. I mean, you see what he did with the Reds this last couple of years, even with the short tenure he had with the Cubs, and then with the Tigers. I mean, he's a really good player that can change the whole lineup. I mean, when you see a presence like Castellanos in the lineup, it changes the game plan completely. However, I don't see this happening, just because I don't know if the Marlins are willing to spend and to pay what Castellanos costs right now. and that's gonna be a thing with the Marlins. I think Heyman is accurate when he says that maybe the Marlins are willing to acquire some more bats that can cost less for them, and maybe try to build from that. But I honestly don't see the Marlins going after a big free agent like Castellanos or even Starling Marte this offseason.
When I look at Castellanos, when you at least you see the report initially, you start thinking, wow, the Marlins actually talked to a not big name free agent that isn't, I guess, for them, Matt Joyce or Corey Dickerson. They actually went out there and they went to talk to a big guy in Castellanos, Marte, which we'll get into a bit.
And they have to. They have to. That's what every team should do in during the offseason. And I don't have any doubt in my mind that they are certainly they have interest in going after Castellanos or going after a guy like Avisaíl García, who I believe it's going to be a better fit for them. Maybe not a better fit, but it's going to be good just because of Avi lives here in Miami, has his family here in Miami, spends the whole offseason here in Miami, and basically every Latin player, and especially the Venezuelan ones, they love to be here because of how close they are to home in Caracas, Maracay, wherever it is, and knowing that their family members and friends can come and see them. However, they have to pay, and that's why Avi Garcia rejected the option or declined his option with the Brewers, and it's fine. It's trying to find another team who can pay him more, because if you see it, what else could he ask for in Milwaukee, knowing that he was already on a winning team, that they're probably going to win the division next year anyway, and the only thing they need is more offense. So it's maybe easier for the Brewers to go and get more offense than for Avisaíl to go and get another team who can pay him whatever he wants. So that's why I think it's going to be difficult. But I really think that the Marlins should go for a guy like him. Obviously, go for a guy like Castellanos. I just don't know if they're willing to spend whatever they cost right now.
Yeah, and just for further, I guess, details on Castellanos, I think this was his best season with the Reds. 531 at bats, 95 runs, 164 hits, 34 homers. Not a single Marlin got that, by the way. Not even close. 100 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 309 batting average, 362 on base percentage, and 939 OPS. So this guy can mash it, and he will be their best player undoubtedly on the Marlins. Isaac, your thoughts on the John Heyman report with Castellanos?
I mean, that's just when you talk about a dream scenario that's unrealistic. This is it. With Castellanos, he's one of the better pure hitters in all of baseball. And in Lone Depot Park, I'll tell you right now, he's not going to hit 34, 36 home runs, but he will hit 55 doubles. Just like he did in that season where he was with the Cubs for half the season. But wow, that would just be such a presence in the lineup, hitting third every single day. Defense liability, who cares? He'll be hitting 300 for you and slug at least 500. So that'd be the dream scenario. You got to remember he opted out of 2 years, 34 million, I believe it was. So whatever he gets in free agency, it's going to have to be more than 17 million a year. So you have to assume it's going to be 2022. So whatever it would cost would be a 4 to 5 year deal in the 80 to 100 million dollar range. Now, will Miami do that? Probably not. We're great at spending other people's money. However, they do that. You got to assume that that's no more free agent signings, but then hey, they can trade for all the other holes in their lineup. So maybe there's a small chance, but I wouldn't hold my breath with Castellanos.
And not only did the Marlins talk to Castellanos, they talked to an old friend, which we had mentioned I think a little bit while ago, Starling Marte. I mean, per source, the Marlins have made an offer to bring back Starling Marte, but no decision is imminent. This comes from Barry Jackson. On any team. More than half dozen teams in mix for Marte. One of the top free agent outfielders, John Heyman, mentioned it as well, that the Marlins did have interest in him, and they did meet up. I think it was either with him or the agent this past week. So, Danny, bringing back Marte, obviously I don't think it'll solve all the Marlins issues, but it'll solve a big issue for the Marlins, which is that center fielder, which they very much lack. And it will bring in a big-time bat, which, once again, they very much lack. And they also know Marte very well from his time with the Marlins, 2020, half that season, and the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, definitely. It's a guy that they know. It's a guy that knows the team, knows the city, knows the market, knows the division, knows everything. He's a veteran, of course. He's been in the NL during his whole career, except from that time in Oakland. But we know Marte is asking for that fourth year, and if the Marlins weren't able to give them that fourth year this season, why would they change it now? I mean, why would they go after him and say, hey, we're gonna give you this right now? I think it could be possible, yes, but I don't see it happening. Maybe not on the Marlins side. I don't know if on the Marte side, he's very, you know, uh, like he really wants to sign here. I think it will be great for the Marlins, knowing that everything we mentioned. I know he's 32 years old, and players after they turn to 30, they don't have the same value. However, Marty is in great shape, great conditions, so it could be very useful, very helpful for a lot of years. But I just don't see, them matching again because it didn't happen before. I don't know if the Marlins are gonna make it happen again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think when you look at the other teams, the Yankees, the Phillies, those
Even the
teams are
Phillies,
obviously
yeah.
going to give him that fourth year, and they're
Exactly.
going to give him a lot more than what Miami offered, which I think was 3
Exactly.
years, 36 million around that area, which they offered him, before the deadline last year,
Yeah.
the trade deadline.
I
So
think it's gonna be close to 50 million, 50 to 60 million, and some teams gonna be some teams gonna pay because it always happens with one or maybe two teams in the offseason. Last year we saw the Blue Jays, for example, signing um, George Springer. They tried to go after Michael Brantley. They signed Kirby Yates. They made all the acquisitions they made during the trade deadline. They did everything they could. They didn't make it. Yeah, I know it was tough against those Rays, against the Yankees, against the Red Sox, who had a great year, although they were not supposed to have it. But there's always one team that tries to make those things happen, and that team is going to be the one who's going to sign Starling Marte. I really see the Yankees maybe doing it, or the Phillies, as you mentioned, because I think Philadelphia is the perfect fit for them. They need a center fielder. Um, they definitely need more offense and a new bullpen, basically. And Marte is just going to be a great fit for them. And in that ballpark, oof, can't imagine.
when you pair him up with a guy like Bryce Harper, that's going
It's
to
going
be
to be sick.
very, very dangerous. And yeah, I think and the Rangers also showed some interest. I think there was a report from Heyman as well today.
And I think the Rangers could be that team too, because they've been losing for a long time now, and you see the Rangers having that flexibility, the new ballpark, um, and saying maybe okay, now it's our time, because I think that the A's could be on a rebuilding process again.
Yeah.
The Astros are solid, but are they really that solid now? Maybe losing Correa, um, not having great pitching. So I think that whoever makes that push in the West, I don't know if it's the Angels, I don't know if it's the Mariners, I don't know if it's the Rangers, but whoever makes that push, giving that extra, I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna fight for the division. And I see the Rangers saying, hey, you know what, we have young talent, we have good talent. We just need to spend a little bit more and bring a couple players and then go for it. And I see the Rangers doing those acquisitions in this offseason, and they're gonna surprise everybody.
Yeah, and I told Isaac, and I'll let him go into this as well. This seems more like a Marlins due diligence to try to give the guy an offer to see maybe if he somehow miraculously says yes and takes this contract over to one that he could get maybe from the Dodgers or a team like the Yankees, which you had mentioned, Danny. Isaac, your thoughts on this report and what does this mean for the Marlins?
Well, I think the Texas Rangers make a lot of sense for a guy like Starling Marte. I know Marte had been outspoken in saying that he wanted to be here. It's just, other teams like the Rangers, like the Phillies, like the Yankees, when they give a long-term contract with someone that's north of 30 years old, they know that like probably the last year he's gonna be ineffective. Those teams can afford to pay for 4 years, knowing only 2 or 3 of them are going to be, worth it financially. The Marlins can't afford to pay for any ineffective years. So I don't see them going for it. That's why I would maybe think that Castellanos would make a little bit more sense due to his age, due to his just straight, pure hitting ability. He's going to be effective for the next 4 years. But with Marte, if you can do 4 years, 45, 40 million, yeah, of course, go for it, because, that's a good deal for him on the Marlins side. But I think he's going to be able to command a lot more than that, especially from a team like Texas that opened their new ballpark, had no fans in the stand for their inaugural year, had a horrible year last year. I think they're saying, listen, we need to show our fans in this new ballpark that we're ready to go, because they're doing the complete opposite of what the old regime did in 2012 when they opened Marlins Park. They need to start getting wins. So I really see him going to the Rangers.
Yeah, and Danny mentioned this guy Avisaíl García. The Barry Jackson once again reported that the Marlins have shown interest in the guy. He had a 262, 29 homers, 86 RBI for the Brewers in 2021. I would assume this is a guy who seems a lot more realistic in terms of money. Danny, what would this guy bring to Miami? I mean, seems like a guy who could just mash homers at this point. That's what Miami looks for.
He's a guy that is on his 30s, I think, Avisaíl. Once again, he lives here. He loves being here. He has plenty of experience, although he's young. But he played a World Series already with the Tigers. He's winning a couple winning teams now with the Brewers and the Rays. A couple seasons ago, an All-Star. His bat is undeniable, so good. And at the same time, if you look at his defensive numbers this year, he was a Gold Glove candidate. He definitely was. I know it was tough in right field in the NL with Duvall and Mookie Betts. But Avisaíl, he played great right field. He plays great center field. He plays good left field. So he's going to be a great outfielder who's going to hit for contact and for power, who's going to be basically healthy all year long, which is a good thing for Avisaíl, who had injuries in the past. And he's going to be a great leader as well. Players respect him. He's a good presence among Latin players, and I know this for a fact because he trains with a lot of them during the offseason, along with Miggy Cabrera or Miggy Rowe or Eduardo Rodriguez or Gerardo Parra, Hernan Perez. Those guys would basically train together every single day in the offseason in Miami. I think he could be a really good fit for the Marlins, and I will definitely be excited if they go after Avisaíl and sign him for this year.
Yeah, Avisaíl seems like he could be one of the big pieces of the Marlins, but I mean, Isaac, should we dream bigger than Avisaíl, or should we assume this is the guy that Miami should go after if it seems like Castellanos would be too expensive, or Marte says no to this offer that the Marlins have made to him?
I think Avisaíl.
Go ahead.
You wanna go for a guy like Castellanos or Marte? Yeah, obviously you want that. But going for Avisaíl, I mean, I know you guys appreciate what he can do, and you guys know how good of a player he is.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not that popular, and maybe fans will say like, yeah, we got Avisaíl Garcia, but he's gonna be so good. He's gonna be really good for the Marlins. So they just don't think about, yeah, very popular guy and good guy, Castellanos or Marte, because Avisaíl Garcia can be really good, and the impact he can have on the staff, it just goes beyond the numbers on the field. I think it's going to be a really impactful player in the clubhouse as well, and that's very good for the team.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of second tier, he's like the highest tier of the second option for what the Marlins should be looking for. Yeah. That's what I would say. I think if you go after a trade candidate, like these Reynolds or Buxton or whatever, that doesn't work out. Marte, Castellanos doesn't happen. He is the first guy you call up. I know he hasn't been the most consistent with the bat in his career. He's coming off a great year, so they might have to pay him a little bit more than he might be worth. But I think 3 years in the mid-30s, $30 million gets it done. And like Danny said, he would be a tremendous upgrade over what Miami has now. And I think that's the point. I obviously think all these guys would be tremendous upgrades. But if you have to, quote unquote, settle for Avisaíl Garcia, that's a hell of a move, and that would be a big upgrade. He's not going to hit 30 home runs in Lone Depot Park, but he has tremendous power, and I think he'd be a good fit as well.
And not even just.
I just want to add one more thing, and sorry, Kevin, for interrupting.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know if maybe Eli has it over there. There was a game, I think it was May 15 or 16 in Miami, or 14 maybe, of 2019.
Yeah.
The Rays were playing here. He hit a bomb over the center field batter's eye.
Yeah.
I didn't even see Stanton hitting the ball over there while playing with the team. I saw him during the home run derby, yes, or during batting practice, but not during games. I've never seen a bomb like that in a game in Miami. Never. Even with John Carter. Yeah. I've never seen something like that. When I saw it, I was like, dude, this guy is really younger than Miguel Cabrera. I mean, wow. that was powerful.
Yeah, and we're going, and Isaac mentioned tiers and, of all these guys. If you really look at it, the Marlins tiers, I think you would say Castellanos, Marte, Buxton, and Reynolds are at that top tier of those guys that in a way seem completely unrealistic, little to no chance, but I mean, somehow Miami pulls it off. And then that middle tier, you would say Avisaíl at first guy. And then I guess you could say a guy like Jorge Soler, who had a great World Series, won the MVP. I don't know what his value would be after that. I don't know how high it would go. And a guy like Eddie Rosario could be an option, Danny. I mean, what would be your thoughts with a guy like Soler or Eddie Rosario, who I don't think have a place on the – not that they don't have it, but a guy like Acuna's coming back. Duvall is going to go through that arbitration process, and maybe they stick with Jock.
Yeah, I know. Eddie, I think it will be a good outfielder for them. Lefty bat, who obviously growth a lot this year with that playoff experience with the Braves, and especially the World Series experience. And he wants to win now. He was so honest with us when we talked to him 24 hours before first pitch. Eddie, we asked him, like, what's the key for what guys like you and Peterson and Soler and Duvall are doing, and how you guys came together in such a short period of time. And he told me, because we're all going to be free agents and we don't know what's going to happen with us, so we just want to give we just want to go all in, give everything, and then see what happens, and we just want to win. Well, I think that they're going to be that once you win, that changes the whole thing, and that changes everything for Soler or for Eddie Rosario, and now they just want to win. I know Soler, with family living here in Miami, him being Cuban, being that impactful among in the community would be good. I think the same about Rosario. I think he will be comfortable here, and I also think he's a great fit. I know the Marlins, they have plenty of depth in the outfield, especially with lefty bats with Bleday and Cameron Meissner and Sanchez, and even if somehow they try with Lewin in the outfield, which I think it's not necessary, but even if they try, they have another lefty bat over there in the lineup, so that'll be another one. But I think any of those guys would be good for the Marlins, especially if the DH is definitely happening in 2022, right? So I think there's an option there with either Rosario or Soler, especially Soler, because Rosario, I think he's a pretty good outfielder with such a nice arm. So I think that'll be good for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned guys in the outfield. Obviously, we can't forget Alfaro, but I mean, yeah. And the DH does give many options for the Marlins. I think the most popular option has been maybe put a guy like Aguilar as the DH, and then you start Lewin, or you maybe put Cooper at DH, because I know Baseball America likes that option. I'm putting Cooper at DH in 2025 and somehow starting Lewin over Aguilar. But I guess we'll move into a more controversial news. Miami wanted to move on from either Pablo Eliezer or Sandy to clear a rotation spot, but then a couple days after, we got I think it was John Morosi who mentioned that it's either Pablo or Eliezer, maybe to Toronto for a guy like Kirk. I don't know what his first name is right now. Completely off my mind. Alejandro Kirk. Isaac, what are your thoughts on this? And I mean, and who's the most most likely to be traded there?
Well, a very large human, just really quick on Alejandro, very large
Yeah.
human who was
When I searched up the picture of the guy, I thought it was like a joke or something. Then I noticed, oh, this is really him. Like,
he could be a center in the NFL. I don't think anyone would look twice.
yeah.
Alejandro Kirk, he was a consensus top 100 prospect guy, and then he graduated obviously, and he had a decent year offensively. There are some questions defensively when it comes to him behind the plate, but like I said, him being even 10 times shittier would be a huge upgrade over what Miami had behind the dish this year.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, it looks like that never gained too much traction. So I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing. And regarding who's more likely to be traded, I think Eliezer is anything but gone. He's going to be traded very soon, I would think. Pablo, that's the interesting one. I don't know if they're willing to trade someone as talented as he is. I don't know if I would. The only thing going against him is just the injury concerns with that shoulder, which has been a couple of times now for him. But I think you're looking to trade a guy like Eliezer and maybe some other sweeteners in the farm system for first major league starting catcher, which could be Kirk, could be Stallings, could be Contreras, who knows? But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get into catching options later. And before I go to Dan, I mean, Eliezer, I don't mind if he gets traded. I mean, the worst option if you don't trade him is you could put him in the bullpen and try him out there because it seems like it can make sense to fit him in the bullpen. But Pablo, I don't see a reason to trade him. He played one more game after the All-Star break, after he came back from the injury. It's unknown how he will come back after that long injury. I wouldn't trade him unless he's not performing up to your standards, or you really want to bring up a guy like Max Meyer and have Sixto, Edward, all those guys in that rotation. Then you would say, all right, let's wait till trade deadline and let's move Pablo, or maybe spring training, Danny. I mean, what would you do in the case for Pablo if it really came down to really trading him, which I personally wouldn't do at all, but. And then your thoughts on the report with Eliezer and Pablo.
Well, the thing is that I don't think every they are untouchable players.
No, yeah, I agree.
That's the first thing. If you find the right fit for you, then you pull the trigger and you do it. I wouldn't blame the Marlins if they trade Pablo, just because he hasn't been healthy ever. And when was the last time we saw Pablo pitch in a full season that it wasn't the shortened season in 2020?
I was gonna say that one.
Yeah. But it was only 60 games, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to judge because it was such a shortened season, and he always have the issues in the second half of the season, or basically starting the second half. So what you saw in 18, what you saw in 19, and what you saw in 21 is that the guy can stay healthy all year long. I don't think there's a person who wants to be healthy, who wants Pablo to be healthier more than I do. I know I get a little bit selfish on this one, but it's only because he's Venezuelan and he's such a great guy. But the thing with Pablo is that he hasn't been healthy ever, and that's the problem. So I wouldn't blame the Marlins if they go on and pull the trigger and trade him somewhere else for a position player. However, I don't think that's going to happen, and I agree with you. I think Eliezer is more likely to be traded. But I think that the problem with Eliezer could be the same one that with Pablo. Health issues with the blister and now the biceps and now this and that. Maybe because of the blister problem that caused him the problem in the biceps. But I think he has some value. I think he has some value now that teams are going to the bullpen so soon, and maybe looking for those guys who can pitch 2 to 3 to 4 innings sometimes. And Eliezer could be that guy because his starts are pretty short, but maybe from the bullpen he can do a pretty decent job. So I think that he has some value, and the Marlins could get an advantage from that because he's just going to be helpful wherever he goes. I think he has made a good step for in his career. I don't think he's on an elite level, but he's a good pitcher, and he can get outs. And as soon as as much as you can do that, you're gonna have a job, and you're gonna be effective no matter where you are.
Yeah, and you mentioned how guys now are being put in the bullpen quicker. This is why I think Eliezer makes a lot of sense. He's a guy who doesn't make many starts, or not many starts. He doesn't go too long in his starts. he has a lot of health issues. He's very injury prone, so maybe him going 2 or 3 innings is good for him. He
Yeah,
doesn't risk an injury as much as it would risk him, maybe pitching every 5 days or
yeah,
going maybe 5, 6 innings. It makes a lot of sense to put Eliezer there. And I was telling this to Isaac. I think it was the last episode we're talking about how the Marlins could really revamp this thing internally, and we talked about guys like Jordan Holloway, maybe a Dan Castano, but Eliezer is one who, before thinking about maybe let's trade him, it makes sense. He was a legit option to possibly be in that bullpen in 2022 and be one of the big pieces, Isaac.
Yeah, well, I think if Eliezer's here, I think he definitely has a huge role in that bullpen, that Andrew Miller type long relief pitcher type who can, either bail out a starter who can't get past the third or fourth inning, or just, you want to finish the game from the seventh, eighth inning on. His numbers from innings 1 to 3 were pretty damn good, with that fastball slider combination. So that's where I think he would belong if he is on the team. I think Miami is going to look to trade him. And back to Pablo, just really quick. Danny mentioned it perfectly. He has not pitched ever more than 112 innings in his career. So now would not be the time where I would trade him, even though I think you get a lot back. I honestly, truly think if Miami is still somewhat in it in the trade deadline of next year, I think, and Pablo is pitching really well, like we know he's capable of, that's the time to trade him to a team that's trying to win now, and that's where you get that offensive piece that you're missing, that you're lacking, try and make a playoff run in 2022. I think the next first half of the 2022 season might be the last time we see Pablo as a Marlin, but I'm with you guys. I wouldn't trade him now. I don't think now is the time. Even though he came off a fantastic year, it was only 103 innings pitched, and he's never pitched more than 112 innings. So I think if he has a really good first half, he'd be a really fascinating trade piece in 2022.
Yeah, and to end it off with Pablo, I think last season trade deadline, I don't know if he was injured or not already, but I know he was a guy who I for sure said, this guy seems like he's the odd man out. I think it's time to, maybe at least look into a trade, but I'm not sure if he was already injured or not. I think he was.
He got hurt just before the All-Star break. I mean, the day before he pitched that beautiful game with 9 consecutive strikeouts to start again, and then he didn't strike out any single hitter after that.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. I don't think he pitched like right after the break. So, yeah. That was it. I know there were teams with interest in him, in the American League specifically.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen because of his health.
Yeah, and moving on, I guess, to a trade alert. The Marlins acquire from Tampa Bay Lewis Head from the Tampa Bay Rays. 2.31 ERA. He was 2-0 in 27 games. 0.86 ERA whip. And he had, I think, 32 strikeouts. Danny, your initial thoughts on this move? I think very underrated in terms of he played 27 games and he was pretty solid. He was a rookie. What would this guy bring for the Marlins? Obviously, it's not the big splash like Anthony Basso, I guess you could say was last year. But thoughts on this trade?
Gas, a lot of gas, and a lot of jokes as well about his last name and the body part, and especially I mean, I already call him. You both guys are Latin, so you guys are gonna understand. I'm already call him Luis Cabeza, which is the exact translation from Louis Head.
Yeah.
But I think he's gonna be good. I saw him a lot, especially the last 3-4 weeks of the season when I went to Tampa for 3 straight weekends. Covered the Tiger series, the Marlins series, and the Red Sox series for the ALDS. So I saw him a lot, and the thing is that it's hard to find a bad pitcher in the Rays, in the Rays system. So he was just good, and I think he's gonna play out very good. That trade, as you mentioned, I think it's underrated. They didn't give up a lot. I mean, just a player to be named later or cash considerations. So you basically you're basically losing nothing. So I think he's going to be good for the Marlins no matter what happens.
The last big trade, we were talking about this I was talking to this about with Isaac when they made the trade with the Pirates. Their player to be named later was Tyler Glasnow. So let's hope the Marlins don't mess with.
Yeah, that's true. And now I don't remember the name of this guy, but they traded Mike Brosseau to the Brewers.
Yep.
The guy who struck out more than 100 batters in less than 7 innings. When you see that, you say, okay, unless it's Trevor Richards, but if the Rays want to trade with you for one of your pitchers, be careful because they can turn that guy into a monster.
And I'm pretty sure that was the trade that was the Chris Archer trade, right? Which he got to Aguilera.
And they got
Austin Meadows,
Archer,
and they got
Archer back. So Padres, that's so bad on you.
Yeah. No, and I don't know if you guys know this, or maybe Eli can tell us. The Marlins did recently have to give a player to be named later. They finally completed that part of a trade. I am blanking on which trade it was, but it ended up being someone not so shitty. I don't remember exactly who the player was, but they definitely just completed a trade that was originally a player to be named later. But that's anyway. To just finish off with Lewis Head, great signing, funny jokes. The Marlins got themselves some head, fantastic. But he'll be a good fun part.
I don't know if Eli saw it or you guys saw it. Like who's gonna be warming up in the arm barn?
I saw that.
Heads up.
Heads up. That's gonna be great when that happens.
Was the player being traded from the Houston trade with Yimi or no?
Austin Pruitt?
Oh no!
I think it was the Yimi
trade.
It
was a Marlin player going away who was a player to be named later, and it ended up being like someone relevant. I
know. I mean, wasn't Griffin Conine player to be named later?
Oh, he was a player to be named later.
Technically, because during the 60-man season, they couldn't trade anyone that wasn't in the player pool. So that's why they couldn't announce it till the end of the year. But it was already rumored. Michael Hill sort of hinted at who it was. But no, it was someone else. But anyway, not to take up more time about this.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I really want to cover with, I guess, now moving on to the baseball part.
Yeah, that's the tweet, Eli. That's
yes. Someone who's warming up in the arm barn. Heads up.
they I don't know if the worst part is actually the joke or that I call the bullpen the arm barn.
The arm barn is worse.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter, I'm sorry, but why?
It kind of smacks. I'm not gonna lie, kind of like arm barn kind of smacks.
But cool, but no.
But no, I mean it's cool if it's a proposal because it's like, yeah, you know what? We just want to change the name because we just want to change it. But if you tell me
not for the reasoning behind it,
I'm like, no, come on, like you guys have so many things to get on with and take care of,
And you look at it too, then you would have to change. You would have to change the baseball names of the Marlins. It's an animal. What other team has an animal as a?
No, you know what? I saw a great tweet regarding like that they wanted to change the name to arm barn. They're like, if only they knew what baseball gloves were made out of.
And baseballs.
And baseballs. Like, okay, guys, let's.
It's like guys, I think you haven't realized what's going on in this sport. So yeah.
Yeah. Now moving away from Marlins talk, there's Carlos Correa, and we saw his nice comments about Derek Jeter and his 5 gold. Was it Gold Gloves? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Danny, your thoughts on Carlos Correa's lovely words to Derek Jeter? And what this means for the Marlins, because it ties into the Marlins.
I don't think it means anything. Honestly, I don't think it means anything. I think Jeter knows what he did and what he didn't in his career. I think he knows how good of a shortstop he was, or how good of a shortstop he wasn't. I don't think. I honestly think it's not a big deal, especially because now everyone understands. Not everyone, but the majority of people understands how you can evaluate defenders with the new metrics. You just certainly what Correa said. Yeah, the eye can lie to you because Jeter looks spectacular with the jump throw and with the play. With the head first, diving into the stands and making that catch or whatever. But he wasn't that good of a shortstop as I know.
Alex Rodriguez.
A-Rod, yeah, but you can compare him to Vizquel, for example. And I know Ethan's gonna hate me for this, but Vizquel was basically the best defensive shortstop of his generation, and there was no question about it. He wasn't that good of defensively, but he was spectacular and he was popular and he was so good in so many things, and that's what I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, Correa can do whatever he wants to do. He's not gonna be bigger than Jeter ever. So,
and I don't think he's coming out of Marlins either. So,
even without the comments, he was not coming to the Marlins anyway.
No, yeah. I think I established
Forget
that
it.
for myself a while ago.
Forget it.
Yeah, once I
I
saw
think it
that,
starts to-
I spoke about it with Christina yesterday. I saw it, and the only thing that was interesting about it is just you don't see any current players speak other than praises for Derek Jeter. So that was the only interesting part. Even though Correa is not wrong at all,
The thing is that Correa is honest every single time.
Right, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I can't argue with it.
I don't think he was wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Jeter was a good shortstop. He just wasn't spectacular as to have
He was
5
not a
Gold Gloves.
five-time- He was not a 5-time Gold Glover. That's like what Brandon Crawford is. That's not what this guy is.
Yeah. The video quality was a little weird. I thought, that's the only thing. It was like
Because it
very
was an
stretched.
Instagram live broadcast. So
Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought it was like a YouTube video or something.
it
Someone
was
got
an
the clip of
Instagram
it.
live broadcast with Me Gustan Los Deportes and Carlos Vargas. Remember
Yeah.
the former big league players of it.
Isaac, I'm gonna let you take over here because I know we want to talk Willson Contreras with Danny Alvarez. So I'll let you take over pretty much for the rest of the pod, pretty much.
Well, yeah, I guess the first, since you mentioned Wilson, I was going to go a different catcher who just retired. I guess we'll start with Wilson. Wilson, Danny, we know he's been a name that's been floated around since last offseason. I think Peyton Burdick was what got in between that trade happening. Wilson is a great offensive catcher. He's there on a 1-year deal left before free agency. He's one of the better catchers to be named available. He seems to fit what Miami would need other than the year's control. What are your thoughts on a potential match here with a Venezuelan catcher?
Wait for him and sign him after he becomes a free agent.
Okay. So it's the years of control that was it.
That's it. You can keep good players. You need a catcher. You definitely need a catcher, maybe more than any other thing right now. Not only because of the offense, not only because of how the poor performance that you had from that position all year long with Alfaro, with Jackson, with Leon, with whoever was behind the plate. I think we saw good things from Peyton Henry. I think we saw good things from Nick Fortes. But I don't believe you can go and compete if those guys are your catchers, your everyday catchers. No disrespect to them, but I think you need a great catcher to compete, and that's how Contreras is. If you don't want to trade a guy like Burdick, that's okay. I think I would trade Burdick to get a piece like him, knowing especially the depth that you have in the outfield now with Meissner and with JJ and how good he's performing.
No, I don't give that up. No,
I
think
I would, but I would just wait and look for a catcher for this year. Of course, I would. And then just wait 1 more year, and then you go and sign him, and then you go and sign whatever big free agent is out there, and then in 23, then you're talking and you're saying, you know what, I'm going for it, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention, because if they did go this route of acquiring a rental like Contreras, I think what's most important to Jeter and Ang and company is 2022 is the year that's right in front of them, and if they're just going to acquire a rental for 2022 and not give up a whole lot, that's fine, because then you just go into the 22 offseason, you're in the same problem you are right now, but at least, hey, maybe Contreras is willing to re-sign. There's going to be a whole lot of other catchers on the free agent market. So to me, I think they're so worried on 2022, knowing they cannot go to Fortes and Jackson, that they might, I would rather 1 year of Contreras than acquiring the 4 to 3 years left of Stallings, for example. But that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you look at the options that the Marlins have. Wilson is one, and I think a really old trade would look like, I think last time the trade didn't go through because Burdick was in that trade and Miami didn't want to trade him. I think at least that's what I heard. But I think I would include Burdick now. He's the minor league player of the year. His value's up now. So I think I would convince Chicago even more to make this kind of a deal. So yeah, and I also did talk about a guy like Mitch Garver from the Twins, who Miami and Minnesota always have had some good trade talks. They made the Sergio Romo trade, and I think they had interest in Eliezer at some point, if I'm correct. So maybe you do Kepler for Mitch Garver. Yep.
I think he's good, and I think that he's just the type of catchers team are trying to develop now. With his way to call the game, framing, blocking, throwing out runners on base. I think he's the perfect fit, and he might be a role model for every single organization out there. The thing is that I don't know what happened to him and his bat. He was so good in 19, and then he just fell apart in 2020 and in 2021. I just don't know what happened. But I think he could be. It could be interesting. You know what? Thinking about Garver in Miami and his good year in 19. Who was the hitting coach over there in 19? With the
James Robinson.
Okay.
I
I think it'll be good for Garver to
Yeah.
be here in case that they're interested in him.
You know, that's a name that I failed to mention in a report I did earlier. But I think we're gonna wrap it up really quickly. Just one more quick thing. Buster Posey, Hall of Famer or not?
First ballot. No,
I'm sorry?
No, 100% first ballot. I mean, no 100% of the votes, but I think it's a first ballot. No question.
Obviously not unanimous. There's only been one person be unanimous.
No question.
No question. Kevin, your thought?
I think he deserves it. I mean, he has all the accolades needed for it. I think he should be a Hall of Famer, obviously. World Series champ, one of the best catchers, I think, of this not the century, but of our time now watching baseball, at least mine. He's top 5 catchers for sure. I mean, you could even argue top 3. So I think this is where we're gonna end it, Danny.
You're such a baby, man. That's of course of your time.
Well, yeah, I'm talking more my time. You know, there's Yachty, I know Yachty, of course, Salvador Perez.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's where we're gonna end it, man. You know, thank you for coming, Danny. It was an absolute honor to have you, and it was a blast to have you.
I've had a blast. Thank you guys for reaching out, and I will do whatever you guys want or need anytime. So thank you for having me, and maybe we can do this again before the off season ends or during the season or whatever you guys need. You know where I'm at the press box all the time, and you can call me, text me, do whatever you want.
Yeah, man. Isaac, once again, obviously thank you for coming again. Obviously, thank you for being here.
Anytime.
Yeah, we're gonna end it here. I did want to ask you about the realistic off season, but I think we'll leave that maybe for another time. Once again, my name's Kevin with Danny, our special guest and co-host Isaac Azout, Eli, and production down there. Make sure to subscribe. I don't know when. I think this will be out Saturday, maybe before. But whenever you see this, just share it to anyone. We'll be on Twitter to hear your feedback, obviously. And peace out, guys. Go.
That's a wrap, everybody.